Hi everyone, this is Karen from the Police Discipline channel, where you can learn all about non-violent discipline. Today's video is part of a series on what not to do in discipline, and we will be looking at guilt trips, why they are unconstructive, and what non-violent tools we can use instead. This video will be relevant to teachers as well as to parents, or anyone who works with or cares for children. What is a guilt trip? Let's start with two examples. A child is playing and accidentally knocks over a beautiful vase, and the parent goes on and on about how beautiful and precious the vase was and how devastating it is that it is now broken. They do this in an attempt to make the child feel guilty about what they've done. Another example, a child does not get ready on time and makes members of their family late for work and for school. The parent goes on and on about it as if everyone's day has been ruined. A guilt trip is when you try to make someone feel as bad as possible about something they have done wrong. In a previous video, we looked at shaming. Shaming is when you make the child feel that they are bad, focusing on the child rather than the behavior. Guilt trips do focus on the behavior, but the method is very unconstructive. Let's look at why. Firstly, guilt trips are controlling. It's as if the parent doesn't trust that the child will feel bad enough by themselves, and so tries to make them feel a lot worse by going on and on about what they've done wrong. You're trying to control how the child feels, and that is not our job as parents or teachers. Our job in nonviolent discipline is controlling ourselves, controlling how we respond. The child's feelings are out of our control. Aside from being controlling, guilt trips can be manipulative. It's as if the adult wants to make the child feel as bad as possible so that it will be easier to get them to do what they want them to do in future because of that overhanging debt of guilt that they feel. It's not playing fair. Thirdly, guilt trips are overkill. If you were really to attune to the child, you would see that often they already feel really bad. Making them feel worse is unnecessary and could even be cruel. Fourth, guilt trips are unconstructive because they are usually the opposite of what the child needs. Think about how you feel when you've done something wrong. I'm sure none of you would tell me that at that point what you need is for someone to make you feel worse. What you probably need is reassurance, the opposite of a guilt trip. What can we do instead of guilt tripping a child? Here are some suggestions. Firstly, use active listening to see how they feel. Very often, after something has happened, the child has a lot of feelings about it, and if you are attuned to them, you will see signs like they may go very quiet, they may look shocked, they may be upset and start telling you that it was an accident, and you can use your reflective listening to help them to process the experience. You can ask them how they feel and reflect back, showing that you understand. You could say things like, I know it was an accident. You didn't mean for this to happen. Secondly, instead of guilt tripping, recognize that the child probably needs reassurance. So you may need to tell them things like, it's not your fault, or I know you didn't know what to do in this situation. They need to hear things like, everyone makes mistakes, or accidents happen, and receive reassurance that they are still loved and can count on your support. In class, teachers often need to reassure children that it's okay to make mistakes. If we didn't make mistakes, it would be difficult to learn. Making the children in your class feel safe in this way is very important. Thirdly, instead of guilt tripping, give guidance for future situations. You might start your sentence with the words, next time. Next time you're in the situation, I would like you to, and then explain what you would like them to do in future. So give guidance for future situations. A fourth option is to guide the child to make amends. If something was broken or damaged, or someone else was inconvenienced, perhaps the child can fix something, pay towards something, or make amends in some other way. The example I gave earlier about the child making everyone late would perhaps be a good one to use here too. The child could be asked to make amends by doing an extra chore later, which would benefit the family. Perhaps they have to make everyone tea, or wash the dishes, or do the drying off. Making amends is a much healthier way to work with a situation like this. Instead of an overhanging debt of guilt, like happens with a guilt trip, they are guided to see a way in which they can put right. It brings a sense of relief and helps everyone to move on from what happened. This in no way means that they get away with what they did to others. Making amends helps them realize what they've done to inconvenience others and to take that seriously enough to engage in restorative action and make the effort to put things right. Lastly, we can replace guilt tripping with support for the child to do better in future. Again, in the example where the child makes everyone late in the morning, the parents might realize that the child is not managing getting ready on time and may need more support. So, for instance, the parent might prepare the child for what would be expected in the morning, give clear instructions, do any preparation that they can the night before, such as getting things ready and making sure everyone has what they need. The parent might get up earlier themselves, get ready, so that they can give more attention to supporting the child to get ready, rather than taking all the time to get ready themselves and just hoping that the children are getting ready on time. They might prompt the child, remind them to do certain things, and they may help the child with things that they were struggling with in the morning. These are just some examples of ways in which a parent may give support to a child that is not managing to be on time. I'm a great believer in stories as a means to convey how parents can do things differently. So let's have a look at two practical situations in which the parent could have used a guilt trip but didn't. Once, when I fetched my son from school, I found that he'd got into trouble for something. Instead of guilt tripping or lecturing him, I asked him what happened, and he explained. And then I asked him how he felt about what happened. As I listened to his response, I realized that he felt really bad about it. One of the things he said was, "I feel like this is so not me." I realized that generally he'd been trying to do well in school, and he felt that in this situation he'd let himself down. I asked him what he'd like to do about the situation, and he spoke about what he would try to do differently if faced with a similar situation in future. This is not the first time that I felt really glad that I had tried active listening first instead of guilt tripping or lecturing. I think that if I'd tried an approach like that, it would only have alienated him. He already felt bad. I didn't need to add to that. My job was to be a safe place for him, a safe place to express what he was feeling, to process what happened, and to decide what to do about the situation. In this case, active listening was a great replacement for the guilt trip. Here's another story. Where we live, crime is an issue, and so security is important. One day, a teenage boy left the front door of his house standing open, allowing a thief to come in a few minutes later and steal a laptop off a table. The boy was by this stage in his room with his headphones on and didn't notice the intruder. Too late, the family realized what had happened. The door was still open, the computer was gone, and the intruder had already left. After her initial shocked reaction, the mother looked across at her son standing a few feet away from her. He looked pale and shocked. She stepped towards him and put her arms around him. To her surprise, he broke down and sobbed. She realized how terrible he felt because he felt responsible for what had happened, and he knew how important the computer was to his mother's work and how much she stood to lose when it was stolen. She reassured him that even though he left the door open, she knew that he never intended for this to happen. In each of these situations, we can see that the children felt vulnerable after making a mistake, and that a guilt trip would have been the last thing they needed. They already felt bad about what they had done. They were already learning the hard way and didn't need anyone to hammer the message home. Guilt tripping is just one of the many ways that we make children feel less safe around us emotionally. So let's stop this unconstructive practice and replace it with listening, reassurance, guidance, and support. That's all for now. I'll be back soon with more in this series of what not to do in discipline and more nonviolent tools that we can use instead. Press like if you found this video helpful. If you would like to learn more about nonviolent discipline, visit the Peace Discipline website and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.